Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Waiting to rise again.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Quirks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the moment you've all been waiting for.
Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Raising Cane studio downtown in the capital city on this Football Friday. It means we're brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp. Jordan Kitchens, Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. Fired up, you're with us. Hopefully that work week is in the rearview mirror and you're enjoying this gorgeous, and I mean gorgeous, fall Friday afternoon in South Louisiana. If you're still on the clock, we'll get you to the finish line here. Appreciate you hanging with us. Preston Guy in 15 minutes. Get you ready for the NFL weekend to come. Just an inexplicable sit-down with Jeff Duncan by Saints owner Gayle Benson that we'll get to a little bit later as well. My SEC picks against the spread, pick for LSU and Arkansas. It's all coming your way over the next 120 minutes. So lock us in, and let's crank it up. Our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
LSU and Arkansas tomorrow, 11:45. I'll say this, I don't think there's going to be a lot of nervous energy on campus tomorrow. I don't think there's going to be a lot of tension on campus tomorrow. The weather's going to be perfect again. Would we rather play at 6:30 or 7 o'clock? Sure. But I think tomorrow's going to be a nice day on campus, and we'll see what this football team has in store. We got a little bit of disappointing news last night with the word that Garrett Nussmeier has suffered a bit of a setback with an existing injury and aggravation. Frank Wilson called him probable, and that came out of left field, basically. And I think it's an important discussion to cover here because to me, and I'm reading tea leaves here, I am not speaking with inside information. I'm not speaking with conversations through sources. I'm not speaking as a doctor or someone in Garrett's court. I'm just speaking as someone who is reading this situation from afar. I watched a quarterback not practice like he wanted to in August. I saw it on the practice field. I saw it in the Tiger Stadium scrimmage. And then the head coach at the time, Brian Kelly, told you that Garrett Nussmeier had a torso injury and that he couldn't practice as much as he wanted to and that potentially his ability to throw the ball down the field was compromised. You saw that with your own two eyes. Barry and Brown throw against Louisiana Tech. Chris Hilton throw against Ole Miss. The ball just didn't travel, didn't have the snap, didn't have the carry that it did have last year. And Brian Kelly told us, hey, Garrett can't really shut this thing down until the bye week, which suggested he needed to shut it down, which means it's not feeling great. And I'm not here to make excuses for Garrett Nussmeier. None of what I just laid out was essentially telling you why Garrett Nussmeier played poorly, why his stats were bad, why LSU's offense wasn't putting points on the board. None of that had to do with that. But I'm telling you that they're telling us he's not healthy. And it looks on the field like he's not healthy. And you try to play through it. And I've seen that, and I know based on a press conference on Thursday, less than 48 hours before kickoff, he's not feeling good again. And if you put Garrett Nussmeier out there on Saturday, probable as he may be, and again, I have no knowledge of what his injury is, but if you put him out there on Saturday and he cannot push the ball down the field and he's uncomfortable throwing the ball, and you put him piloting that offense against that Arkansas offense, you will lose. You'll lose. Garrett Nussmeier is not capable, injured, of throwing a bunch of screen passes with that LSU offense and beating Arkansas. You will not score enough points. This is not Clemson. This is not Florida. This is not South Carolina. LSU's defense is not going out there on Saturday morning into the early afternoon and holding Arkansas to 10 points. They're not. They are not. No one does that to Arkansas. Notre Dame was the best. They had an unbelievable offense that day that just carved Arkansas up, which LSU theoretically could do because everyone's done that to Arkansas, including Auburn, who doesn't score any points. But if Garrett Nussmeier is not healthy and you're relying on a run game with a shoddy offensive line and a bunch of 3-yard passes and screen plays, you will not keep up with Arkansas. Now, maybe Garrett Nussmeier gets a shot on Saturday morning and he feels 100% and he can give it a go and he's at full strength and maybe that's fine. But if he's compromised, and we'll put a number on it, if he's 70%, so you eliminate throws 35 yards down the field and everything's got to be close, you'll lose. You will lose the game. Because I've watched that offense, and I've watched it against teams that aren't great on defense, and it's not good enough because Arkansas is going to score some points. You cannot win this game counting on your defense to create 4 or 5 turnovers and hold Arkansas to 13. It's not going to work. So I will tell you what I told you on Monday. I think Michael Van Buren should start the game. Now, what I will tell you right now is that I'm not going to play the conspiracy theory game. You certainly can. I'm confident LSU fans will. They'll say, he's shutting it down, getting ready for the draft. He's submitting that out. They don't get hit in practice. No way he got hurt. They're just getting Van Buren in there, and we're done with Nussmeier. Like, I'm not going to play that game. That's not where I'm going to be. You don't have to get hit to restrain an oblique muscle throwing a football. I don't know how healthy he has been all year. I have no idea. So I'm just going to operate with what I know and what I've seen on the field and what Frank Wilson tells me. I'm not going to swim in the conspiracy theory waters. But I would go with Michael Van Buren. And I would make Arkansas defend him running the ball, and I would do some read option with him. I would move the pocket with him. I would call some design runs with him. I would change what you do on offense because what you've done on offense, no matter how Garrett Nussmeier, how healthy he is or not, it hasn't worked. Because I told you on Monday, I think he's a bad fit for this personnel. This personnel does not run the ball. This personnel does not adequately protect the passer. And without those two things, Garrett Nussmeier is just not, he doesn't have enough dimensions to his game to overcome that. Now, last year you couldn't run the ball, but you could protect the passer. So he could go to work. And he did throw for 4,000 yards. And he did throw for the second highest total in the history of LSU football. He could fit in some circumstances in that offense last year. He does not fit this one. And as bad as that Arkansas defense is, and let me tell you, it is real bad. Like, it doesn't matter. Because if he's not healthy, he can't play. I'm ready to see Michael Van Buren. We talked about the red shirt earlier this week. There are 2 schools of thought on that. 1, play for your next contract. You play these last 3 games, you put up some numbers, you show some ability, whether it's LSU or the next school you play for, is more likely to ante up. You shut it down, you redshirt, you lean on film from last year, well, we'll see what your next deal is. But on the flip side of that, you shut it down, you keep that red shirt, you get an extra year on the back end where maybe your earning potential is better. You don't know. It's a game. It's free agency. That's what it is. And you play for your next contract. So Frank Wilson's telling us that, well, we have to talk to the players, talk to their family, and decide what it is they think is best for them, what it is we think is best for them, and you come to a decision. And sometimes it's different from what you were told previously. That's what Frank said. And we know that Brian Kelly told the Van Buren family in that camp and Michael Van Buren in March, like, you'll redshirt. Well, circumstances change. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And I don't know the specifics of the Nussmeier issue, but it was obviously significant enough where he had to come out of practice and tell Frank Wilson about it, and Frank Wilson felt like he needed to mention it to the media and put it on the injury report. That's not nothing. Bumps and bruises happen in every single football practice across levels. Never get told. This got out. It's something. And it started with patella tendonitis, and then you got the torso injury, and now this is continuing. Plus, he had a tweaked ankle. Like, it's been a bumpy season for Garrett Nussmeier. I would throw Michael Van Buren out there tomorrow because I don't think a non-healthy Nussmeier can score enough points to beat that Arkansas team. Now, we'll close with this. I'm going to be very brief. I'm not going to be very preachy. I'm not going to be condescending. I'm not going to be any of that. I'm just going to express myself very directly and very clearly. It may work. It may backfire. I don't know, but I feel the need. I've got a microphone. There's a game coming up tomorrow. I have a feeling I'm going to put it out there. I think if you go in that stadium tomorrow and you boo Garrett Nussmeier pregame, when he's announced as a starter, when he throws it in completion, I think if you boo Garrett Nussmeier, you're missing the point. That's my opinion. Now, there'll probably be plenty of you that hear me say that and go, screw you. You know how much he makes? You know how disappointing this season's been? And you do whatever you feel is necessary. I'm telling you, my opinion is booing a fifth-year senior who has put as much work in to the football program that you love as Garrett Nussmeier, to me, seems misguided. And I will be really, really disappointed when I get in that stadium tomorrow and there are significant boos. I can't control the student section. I've told y'all about my feelings on the student section for years now. I do not expect intoxicated 19-year-olds to make wise choices, period. I've been an intoxicated 19-year-old, not a lot of wise choices. I don't expect a ton out of that group. The rest of the stadium, I'll be listening, and I'm hopeful that that doesn't happen tomorrow. He's got 2 games left in this stadium. He's put 5 years into this program. This year has been a huge disappointment, and I don't think anyone is more disappointed than him. I'm hopeful he's not booed tomorrow. Just putting that out there to finish off this segment. That's our opening drive, brought to you by Genesis of Baton Rouge. Our Football Friday show is brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish, and Shrimp. When we come back, Preston Guy, TigerBait.com next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Look, safety can be a big issue in the bathroom, especially as folks age. If there's someone in your life who is aging and you feel like maybe there could be a hazardous situation in the bathroom, you can't eliminate that risk, but you can mitigate against it. Non-slip floors, handrails where they might be necessary, walk-in tubs for convenience, comfort, and safety, as well as showers with benches in them, could be a difference maker. David Duvall and his team do that kind of stuff all the time. So reach out to him. Say, hey, David, I'd like to look at this. He can tell you what they can do. Each case is different, and he can tell you what they can do for you specifically. Check out the website, onebathandclosets.com. Get that free consultation. Understand that financing is available 0% up to 18 months if you qualify. It's One Bath and Closets. Find it online, onebathandclosets.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish, and Shrimp.
Friday shows brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish, and Shrimp. Getting a late lunch. Want a shrimp po' boy? Corks has a fantastic shrimp po' boy. You can check that out. Got some folks coming over after the night game, or the morning game for the night games tomorrow. Want to feed in bulk? Corks can always help you with that as well. High school football playoffs. You want Corks? They can help you there. And it's just a great spot to stop in for lunch. Government between Foster and Jefferson. The entire menu is online at corksfishandshrimp.com. Preston Guy with us, TigerBait.com, joins us on Fridays. He's here now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Preston, how are you?
All right, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
It's going well. Appreciate you. What are your thoughts on, well, let's go back to Bama first. What are your thoughts on the defense in that game?
Yeah, defense played well, gave you every chance to win the game. I don't think that realistically against an offense like that, you could really ask for much more. What you can ask for is in 4 trips to the red zone, maybe you get 2 field goals and 2 touchdowns out of it instead of 3 field goals. Getting 9 points out of 4 red zone trips is pretty abysmal. So, especially when you start looking at it, all you needed was 20 points to win the game, and you could have absolutely tied the game up just by a couple touchdowns and a couple field goals.
What do you think the biggest problem is with the red zone offense?
Offensive line. I mean, a lot of times getting these short yardage is just about, being the bigger, stronger man and bulldozing people over. And when you can't do that, you have to rely on finesse. It's a little tougher. And right now, this team's just not executing with the finesse. And you couple that offensive line with a quarterback who is just not very dynamic and apparently hurt again. It's just not a great combination. I mean, and it is frustrating to watch this offense do move the ball sometimes, and then they just get down time to score, and they're dreadful in these positions. So, it's just, ultimately we could talk about a lot of microcosm of issues, but the honest answer is, Hunt, we're 9 games into the season? They're just not good. They're just not good. It's a plain answer.
What would you do at quarterback tomorrow? I know that there are variables like red shirts and injuries, but what's your feeling on it?
Well, they've already said they aren't doing the red shirt for Michael Van Buren, which ultimately I look at that as, his decision, especially given that there's no football coach or championship aspirations for this program at this point. Let the kid decide what he wants to do. And honestly, if Nussmeier is hurt, that does suck for him because he needs a little bit more film and good film to ultimately get himself back on being drafted. I don't know if Nussmeier is a draftable quarterback right now based on the film he's put out there. But if he's hurt, and we've seen what injured Nussmeier looks like, we early in the season, he wasn't able to make even basic throws. I would just go with the backup if he looks anything like he looked, remember, Ole Miss or Louisiana Tech, those early games. I can't imagine. Michael Van Buren didn't necessarily look good by any stretch of the imagination, but still a healthy quarterback, especially one with legs, I think does give you a better chance to win this ball game.
So let's bring Arkansas into the equation now. If Michael Van Buren is the quarterback against Arkansas, do you feel like LSU should be able to put up some points like quite literally everyone else has?
Well, it doesn't. Right. I must say the other thing is here is this is the kind of game where a healthy Michael Van Buren should shred him up. Because you don't have to be that good. Just be healthy and capable of making throws. Let's put it like this. Michael Van Buren has more physical capabilities to take advantage of a dreadful defense, right? If Nussmeier sees a lane that's open like the Red Sea in front of him, is he going to take it off and run? First off, probably not. Second off, if he does, he's not going to get much out of it. Whereas a guy like Van Buren, for these openings, will take advantage of it.
When you look at this Arkansas defense and you look at LSU's personnel, you factor in the ground game, Van Buren's running, where should LSU try to attack Arkansas to begin?
Well, I think they do need to get more Harlem Berry involved to take advantage of that, and hopefully the scoreboard doesn't necessitate putting him in a reserve role. But I think this running back rotation has been one that's very frustrating all year long because it's like the hot hand guy always seems to get relegated to the bench. But yeah, I would try that. And, I would certainly try to steer away from bubble screens because you opened, I think you had about 16 or 17 of these just at the line of scrimmage screens, which I understand why. And I'm not saying eliminate it from your offense, but at a certain point, it's easy to adjust to that. You gotta make some adjustments to keep them honest. You can't just go 100%. Maybe 1 in 3 plays are a bubble screen or whatever, but you can't just do it every play. It's going to get very easy and monotonous to stop.
Let's go from the matchup of bads, Arkansas's defense and LSU's offense, to the goods, Arkansas's offense and LSU's defense. We know the running quarterback thing for LSU's defense has been a nightmare. When you watch on tape, what do you see?
Yeah, Taylor Green is as dynamic of an athlete and a capable player. I understand he hasn't played as well as maybe some would have wanted him to, but, that is the one thing that really gives me pause in this matchup. Number one, Whit Weeks is out, and that hurts. But we saw that defense play markedly improved football this weekend, without him. So he'll probably not be out in the game this weekend, and that hurts. But ultimately what does give me pause is the fact that Taylor Green is a guy with a wide open lane. He'll tuck it and he'll roll 80 yards on you. He's capable of doing that. But ultimately, I do think LSU's 11 is more talented than their 11 on that side of the ball. They should have the advantage, should being the operative word.
As far as LSU's secondary goes, I'm curious how you feel like they will be able to match up down the field. If nothing else, to give LSU a bit of a numbers advantage. That's what you, I guess, are hoping for, right?
Yeah, I'm not super concerned about that. I think, between Taylor Green's inconsistency in pass, we're not capable passer, but I don't think he's a consistent passer. He's a guy who's had a lot of turnovers and inaccurate moments and whatnot. I don't think if LSU loses this game, I don't think it's going to be because of what Arkansas did in the air. I mean, what has Mansour Delane done this year to make you think, yeah, he's going to have a choke job? You know what I mean? Like nothing out of these DBs. And look, we just saw, I mean, sure, Ty Simpson had some plays here and there. He's one of the best. That's one of the best passing offenses in the country, right? I wouldn't expect Arkansas to be able to pass the ball better than Alabama did on this defense. That's what I'm getting at. Now, that being said, Taylor Green with his legs, I could see them running the ball better than Alabama did on this defense. So that's just not the direction I'm really looking. If LSU struggles, I don't think it's going to be because of anything they did over the air.
How do you think it goes tomorrow afternoon?
Oh, boy, Hunt, I'm going to tell you this, and here's why this game matters. You're probably going to beat Western Kentucky. At Oklahoma, that's going to be a tough draw. Then the bowl game, who knows who's going to show up for that bowl game. You very well likely be rolling out a skeleton crew and be winding up for a butt whooping, okay? Essentially, if LSU's best chance at a winning season, okay, to go 7-6 or better is win tomorrow, right? So I think that's important. It shows this program has a high floor. But I think I like LSU by about a touchdown or so, which if you look at this team who hasn't scored 25 points or more in a Power 5 game, that's actually quite the butt whooping for this team.
That's unfortunately true. All right, early coaching search thoughts. Do you have a name? Do you have an idea? Anything that you're pointed towards at this point? I realize we've got some time here.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of scoops and information. The Lane Kiffin situation, I think, is where everybody's going first and foremost. And, I think LSU would love Lane Kiffin. I do think right now Florida is the team to beat based on what I'm hearing, although let's keep in mind it's November 14th. There's 3 more weeks of the regular season to be played, right? But I think Lane Kiffin might be tough for LSU to pull. I also think LSU was a little behind in the game getting to coaches like that simply because LSU had some administrative issues to take care of. And I think also a lot of the PR stuff that's going on around LSU does make it difficult for a guy like Lane Kiffin, who has every offer he wants in the country, basically. I mean, he might even have the New York Giants calling him for all we know soon. So, when you have pick of the litter, these PR things. Now, okay, if you're offering a guy, say, like John Sumrall, who's the coach at Tulane, and his choices are, well, I could go to LSU or stick at Tulane. Like, okay, these PR issues, they start to not become as big of a deal when the guy doesn't have a litany of offers coming at him, right? But ideally, you want the desirable coach. So, yeah, I mean, there's a couple names. Jeff Brom, if he doesn't sign his reported extension, is a name to watch. You got to keep an eye out on Eli Drinkwitz, although that's probably not going to be super popular. Josh Heupel, Tennessee, is another name that I would keep an eye out that maybe a lot of people aren't just saying all the time. But, yeah, I mean, it's an open field, and I don't know that any one of them is particularly drastically more compelling to be the next coach of LSU more than the other. I think it's a good field. My only hope is that they hire a tactician, not a CEO coach, and then they also just do it on the coach's timeline. Don't just settle for a guy because, well, this guy was in the playoffs and we really wanted someone here for signing day. I want them to take it on the chin, hire someone with good elite play calling experience that really just, I think in this era of football is more and more important and, reduces it makes you not one bad coordinator hire away from 6-6 at all times. So that's just my hopes overall, just more conceptual rather than specific names.
Appreciate you, Preston. Enjoy the football tomorrow, and we'll see you in Tiger Stadium.
All right, see you soon.
Preston Guy, TigerBait.com, with us on Fridays talking a little LSU football. We share that opinion. I gave a big segment on it yesterday. Brett Preston's written about it as well. Like, I kind of want somebody whose fingerprints are all over one side of the ball. It just reduces volatility, I think. And there are arguments against that. There are arguments for the CEO. There are arguments that say that if you got one guy that has one side of the ball, maybe it doesn't work out. The Hugh Freeze, Billy Napier, Dave Aranda deal that I discussed yesterday. But that's just kind of where I'm leaning right now. I do feel like we're still, in relative terms, a long way from this conclusion. Like, you're sitting here on the 14th of November. You realize that if you hire someone who's in the college football playoff, that's not coming until about Christmas. That's 6 weeks. Like, it could be a long time before LSU has a football coach. Now, if they hire somebody who's not in the playoff, they hire Eli Drinkwitz or Josh Heupel or John Sumrall or North Texas's coach or whoever, Nick Saban, then we may be 3 weeks from a coaching hire. But perhaps that doesn't happen. It's because of the playoffs. Because you were never, generally speaking, hiring a coach whose bowl game desperately mattered unless you were a G5 hiring a P5 coordinator. Like Saban had those coordinators getting jobs. Jim McElwain taking, I think, Colorado State is where he went. You had that all the time. But as far as head coaches who were now the 12-team playoff has changed that. When it was 4, you weren't hiring one of those 4 coaches who was in the playoff. Like, that just wasn't going to be realistic. Now, with the 12-team, it is realistic because one G5 is getting in, and then a couple of these guys think maybe would leave for LSU or Penn State or Florida. So just kind of changes that timeline, and it makes it more unknown. Like, if you knew that you were just going to get a guy after that last regular season weekend and Thanksgiving, you knew you were going to get one in the 2 weeks that followed that, it was pretty easy to key in when it was going to happen. At this point, you can make a case that LSU doesn't hire a coach until like January 20th. Like, it's possible. I think that's unlikely, but it's possible. So it just it makes the waters a little bit muddy when we try to dive in and discuss candidates because the timeline's so wild. But appreciate Preston for giving us a little time here on this Friday. Brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish, and Shrimp. We'll come back and get you ready for the NFL slate to come. In 10 minutes, I will tell you about an interview that Gayle Benson did with Jeff Duncan that was something else. That's coming up in the next couple of segments.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge. SwingEasyGCBR.com. We got something coming a week from Sunday at Swing Easy Golf Club. We're going to make that announcement coming up on Monday. But I'm going to be there, and we're going to be doing a challenge, and we're going to be giving some stuff away, and we're looking very much forward to it. It's an awesome place. If you have not been, I highly recommend you check it out. If you're thinking, I don't have 5 hours to play a round of golf, why don't you play a round of golf in an hour and 10 minutes? You can do that at Swing Easy Golf Club. You go into one of your private bays with the simulator. You can play Pebble Beach or Cypress Point or TPC Sawgrass or where they play that pretty famous tournament in April. You can play those courses in an hour and a half on the simulator. You drive, you hit your iron shots, you have to hit your punch outs, you putt, chip, the whole thing. It's right there at Swing Easy Golf Club, an awesome alternative to an outdoor round of golf where you're beholden to weather elements and slow pace of play and cost-efficient deals and trying to get a tee time. Just go to Swing Easy. It's on Segan at Perkins. Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge. SwingEasyGCBR.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
All right, in 25 minutes, I'll pick my SEC games against the spread. Let's see how many there are in the league this week outside of LSU. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'm not picking Tennessee, who's playing somebody no one's ever heard of. No, I am picking Tennessee. There's another one that I'm not picking because they're playing somebody no one's ever heard of. Doesn't matter. We got 6 games for me to pick. That's got to be a 4 and 2. Got to be at the top of hour number 2. We also got a little more LSU Arkansas to talk about. I got my pick coming up in an hour and 20 minutes. So appreciate you hanging out with us here on this Football Friday. It's now time to get you ready for the NFL Sunday. Let's go. Only one game in Tier 4 this week, the worst game of the week. And, of course, they shipped it off to Madrid. It is the Commanders at the Dolphins. Washington's defense is awful. Marshawn Lattimore tears ACL. He's out. Trey Amos is out as well. Deron Payne, maybe their best interior defensive lineman, he's out. Dan Quinn's going to try to save the day by calling plays. I don't think that's going to help. What could help is playing the Dolphins, who are not very good, and Tyreek Hill's out for the year. But either way, it's the worst game of the weekend, and Madrid is stuck with it. So maybe they'll think it's cool anyway because they don't know what the rules are. Whatever. Tier 3, Bengals at the Steelers. No wide receiver has had a touchdown in 4 straight games against the Steelers since 1996. You guessed it. Jamar Chase is going to try to do that on Sunday. Texans are at the Titans. Divisional showdown. Houston shut the Titans out in week 4, and they lead the NFL in points per game allowed. This under is very enticing, but it is low, 37.5. I might be tempted because I don't think the Titans are going to score very many points there at home against Houston. All right, Packers are at the Giants. Brian Daboll has been fired, and the Packers all of a sudden cannot score. They have been held to 13 points or less in back-to-back weeks. They have not been held to 13 points or less 3 weeks in a row since 1999. That's on the table for Green Bay this weekend. Hold on. Frog in the throat. 49ers at the Cardinals. No Kyler Murray, no Marvin Harrison Jr. Still, Cardinals are 9-2 against the spread in their last 11, and they're 11-4 as underdogs since 2024 over the last 2 seasons. I think the Cardinals might be worth a home play there against San Francisco. Ravens are at the Browns, and Myles Garrett's last 9 games against Baltimore, he's got 8.5 sacks and 14 hits. Lamar Jackson has a sore knee. The last thing any human wants with a sore knee is Myles Garrett chasing you on every snap. That's what Lamar gets on Sunday. Last 4 Cleveland-Baltimore games have actually gone over the total, which is surprising because Cleveland, has a good defense and never scores. But they have. All right, Tier 2, here's the better action of the weekend. Interestingly, this is the biggest Tier 1 day I can remember. But in Tier 2, the Panthers are at the Falcons. Would not have thought that was a Tier 2 game. Panthers could bury the Falcons at 3-6 with a sweep of them. Remember, a 30-0 win by the Panthers last time between these two. Falcons really need to win this game against Carolina. I think they will. The Bears are all of a sudden playing really good football. They are at the Vikings. Bears 6-3. Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, and Baker Mayfield lead the NFL with 4 game-winning drives apiece this season. Seems like Caleb Williams is starting to finally find something there in Chicago. The Chargers are at the Jaguars. Justin Herbert has been hit more than any quarterback in the NFL this year. But I think they got that fixed. They got Trevor Penning, right? He won't get hit anymore. Maybe not. Josh Hines-Allen, 0.5 sacks away from the Jaguars franchise record. I think there's a good chance he could get that this week against Herbert, who has been susceptible to hits all season long. Now to Tier 1, where we have got a loaded slate on Sunday. The Bucs are at the Bills. Josh Allen, in their 3 losses, has 6 total turnovers, 2 in each game. In the 6 wins, 1 total turnover. He's got to take care of the football. The Buccaneers are 8-1 against the spread after a loss the last 2 seasons. They are coming off a loss last week. Seahawks are at the Rams. Big divisional showdown. Matt Stafford might be the NFL MVP right now. He has thrown 25 touchdowns against 2 interceptions. This game is between teams that are 7-2. The winner controls the NFC West. The Chiefs are at the Broncos. Pat Mahomes is cooking right now. He also might be the MVP after an 0-2 start. They're really rolling. They're coming off a bye there. Kansas City is. If the Broncos win, they take a 3.5 game lead in the West over Kansas City. That's a big deal for Denver, and they're at home against the Chiefs. Could be a big moment for Sean P. and Denver. And then finally, the primetime game is Tier 1. It's the Lions at the Eagles. Philadelphia is the only NFC team that Dan Campbell has not beaten as the head coach of the Lions. It's a cool stat for Dan Campbell there. The Eagles only have 4 turnovers on the season. That leads the NFL this year. It's also the fewest through 9 games in the history of their franchise. Jalen Hurts doing a good job taking care of it, and the Eagles taking care of business as they have in the NFC for the last few years. That is your look at the National Football League slate for Sunday. 4 games, Jordan, in Tier 1. Bucks, Bills, Seahawks, Rams, Chiefs, Broncos, and Lions, Eagles. That's a salty slate there.
Man, that Lions, Eagles is going to be absolutely – see, but I'm kind of scared, though, because that's one of those games where on paper it looks like it's supposed to be fireworks and all that, and it comes out and be an undershow, just a sloppy –
prime time, those 2 teams, their offenses, the way they're playing, I think they're going to get up and down the field and score some points. It would not surprise me if Broncos-Chiefs went under. If those 2 teams, those defenses are good. I know that you've got the Chiefs those 2 offensive minds with Andy Reid and Sean Payton. It's as good as you get. Nix is playing very well, and Mahomes has been phenomenal.
Yes.
But is it weird to say the Chiefs are flying under the radar? Is that possible?
Because
of their record? They started 0-2?
Well, I'm not going to say they're flying under the radar necessarily, but it's kind of that fatigue. Because they've been good for so long. So it's like, okay, let's just see what the Chiefs do in January.
I talked to the Chiefs play-by-play guy at Super Bowl week when we were there. He was salty about the fact that everyone was hating on the Chiefs. I was like, it just kind of comes with the territory.
Thank you.
Nobody pulls for the Lakers. Nobody's pulling for Tom Brady's Patriots.
Literally.
Nobody's pulling for the
Alabama.
Yankees. That's just not – you reach a status. You're winning games. People are going to hate you. That's just part of the way that it goes. So where does the badge of honor?
See, Hunt, I wish the Pelicans could get to that point where people hate us, so I can be like, yeah, man, I can wear these colors. Yeah.
I would venture to suggest you could travel sea to shining sea and not find one person who hates the Pelicans.
I know. That's the problem.
Maybe Anthony Davis. That might be it.
Yeah, well, AD, we see what's going on in Dallas right now, so he needs to pipe down. He needs to pipe down.
My man firing shots at old Anthony Davis.
Oh, yeah. Letting them fly.
All right, that's a look at the NFL slate for Sunday. Still to come, SEC picks against the spread. Still to come, LSU Arkansas talk, including a pick at the end of the show. And we'll also play some take it or leave it a little bit down the road. But we do have to talk about an interview that Gayle Benson gave to Jeff Duncan of NOLA.com and The Advocate. He talked about the Saints and the Pelicans. I'm just going to omit the Pelicans for right now and hammer down on the Saints and what she had to say. Jeff Duncan, to his credit, did a great job asking about the current state of the franchise, the future of the franchise, as well as Mickey Loomis and his role in all of this. And I know how y'all feel about Mickey Loomis. And Jeff Duncan asked Gayle Benson directly on multiple fronts what she thought about Mickey Loomis. She gave answers to that, as well as what's the succession plan for the Saints. We'll get into all of that, and it is wild when we get back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com is the website. Every car that is on the lot is online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. We live in a delivery society, right? You need food, get it delivered. You need toiletries, get them delivered. You need clothes, get them delivered. It's just what happens. You can deal with a car, too. I know everyone kind of hates the thought of maybe going onto the lot and having to deal with people that you don't want to deal with and feeling like you're getting taken advantage of. And stereotypes exist for a reason. I get it. That's never going to happen at Genesis of Baton Rouge. But if you want to eliminate that risk altogether and just do it from the comfort of your own home, you can do it. You can shop their entire inventory online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. And if you want a test drive, call them. Say, hey, I'd like to test drive. Here's home. Here's work. Here's when I'm available. They will come to you. One of their brand ambassadors will get you behind the wheel, and you'll be able to test drive from the comfort of your own home. If you decide at that point, that's what I want, you still don't have to go to the lot. E-contracts, delivery of the vehicle, you're on your way. It's all about convenience. It's all about customer service at Genesis of Baton Rouge. So stop on by if you'd like. If you wouldn't like, go to GenesisofBatonRouge.com. They're on airline at PQ for those that would like to darken the door. If you'd like them to come to you, GenesisofBatonRouge.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
Football Friday is brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp. Jumbo Gulf shrimp. Clean, crispy fried catfish, those crispy shoestring fries as well, honey butter rolls, beignet bites, crawfish etouffee, baked potatoes. They got it all over there at Corks. They're on Government between Foster and Jefferson. Check them out online at corksfishandshrimp.com. All right, to close out the hour, I want to talk about a great Q&A that Jeff Duncan of NOLA.com and The Advocate conducted with Gayle Benson. I'm going to go into some specific portions of it, but just know that there's a lot more meat on this bone. Jeff did a great job of asking pertinent questions about the Saints and the Pelicans, who obviously Miss Gayle owns. And there's a lot more than I'm going to get to, but I'm going to hit the high points as I see them. I highly suggest you go check it out wherever you get your NOLA.com Advocate information, whether it's online or in print. So let's get into this. Here's a question directly from Jeff Duncan to Gayle Benson. I'll give her answer and we'll start talking about it. Duncan says, many fans have lost confidence in leadership of Saints general manager Mickey Loomis, pointing out the club's lack of success without head coach Sean Payton. Here's the first quote from Gayle Benson regarding that. It may not be what the fans want to hear, but as far as firing Mickey Loomis, that's ridiculous. He does a great job. Mickey's been one of the top NFL general managers. He's a great guy. He's got a bunch of rookies. He's got a new coach who was just in the Super Bowl. I mean, what else can I do? Let's take that. It's ridiculous to fire Mickey Loomis, she says, because he does a great job. Well, what is it that Miss Gayle believes that Mickey Loomis does such a great job with? And to Jeff Duncan's credit, he asked about it. Why do you have confidence in Mickey Loomis's work as a general manager, she asked. And Gayle Benson says, this offseason, Mickey managed the retirement of Derek Carr, saving us $30 million in cap space. Let me take that. Derek Carr quit. So, yeah, you're going to deal with the cap as Mickey managed the retirement of Derek Carr. He quit because he was hurt. How about the $100 million Derek Carr was guaranteed as a middling, mediocre, malcontent quarterback? How about that part of it? I'm not buying that, Gayle. But she continued into reasons why she has confidence in Mickey Loomis. This is a real quote, by the way. He also traded defensive tackle Colin Saunders to the Jaguars for our current starting veteran center, Luke Fortner, who has played a pivotal role in the absence of Eric McCoy following the season-ending injury. When asked about why she has confidence in Mickey Loomis, Gayle Benson pointed to saving money on Derek Carr quitting and trading Colin Saunders for Luke Fortner. Those are the first two things she said. Now, I know she's probably reading off a prompt sheet here, but those are the first two things she said. I continue. As our fans know well, Mickey also oversaw two of the greatest drafts in league history in 2006 and 2017. 2006? I was in high school in 2006. You know what was cool in 2006? iPods. The ones where you scrolled around the circle. I mean, Jason Taylor was the NFL Defensive Player of the Year in 2006. His kid's in the league right now. We know him well. I'm shudder to ask how old Cassie was in 2006. I think she was 3.
Yeah, I was 3.
3 years old. She's out of college. This is what we're talking about with Mickey's confidence, 2006? She also said the 2017 draft was good. It was. Ryan Ramczyk has retired. Marshawn Lattimore is completely washed. Alvin Kamara is averaging 46 yards per game. Can we find something else? Well, I guess we should look at Mickey's draft picks since 2017 in the first round. Marcus Davenport, Cesar Ruiz, Peyton Turner, Trevor Penning, Brian Brzee. Let's look at some other picks he's made. Bub Means, Jalen Ford. He's got 10 career tackles. Christian Boyd, 6 career tackles. Josiah Zerum. Not on the team, Isaiah Foskey, Nick Saldiveri, Jake Hayner, A.T. Perry, DeMarco Jackson, Jordan Jackson. Basically, you've got Fawaga, McKinstry, Olave that are helping some. So, no, there's none of that of the draft matters at all. It's a terrible draft. Yeah, the 06, nice work there. 17, solid effort. They're all retired. These guys are terrible. There are only 3 teams in the NFL who have a longer current playoff drought than the New Orleans Saints: the Jets, Panthers, and Falcons. The Colts and Bears are tied with the Saints, and they're going to the playoffs this year. So if you look at draft picks, terrible. You look at the state of the current roster, everyone agrees it's probably the worst in the NFL. You look at the recent history, they haven't won a playoff game since 2020. How about cap space? That's the other thing the general manager has to deal with. They've got the 3rd most dead money in the league this year. Now, Derek Carr quitting doesn't help, but we've already praised him for managing Derek Carr's money. 3rd most dead money in the league this year. Oh, well, how's the cap space for next year? Well, you're 30th in the NFL, minus $16 million. So if we're looking at this great job that Gayle Benson is suggesting that Mickey Loomis is doing, and we want to look away from managing Derek Carr quitting, trading for Luke Fortner, and draft picks when Cassie was 3 and I was in high school, as well as guys that are retired by now in 2017, you're looking at a disaster of a draft class, the worst cap situation in the league, a terrible current roster, and a long playoff drought. And you sit there and would tell NOLA.com that Mickey Loomis is doing a great job and that firing him is ridiculous. The only thing ridiculous is the answers to these good questions by Jeff Duncan. Now, look, Gayle Benson says in this interview to her credit, that she is, this is a quote, "I agree with everyone, including Mickey, that we do not have the record we want. However, I do see a team that is building for the future. While I'm not nuanced in the details of specific football moves, I'm aware of what I see on the field." I agree. You're not nuanced in the football moves. But there is nothing, literally nothing, that would suggest Mickey Loomis is doing a good job. You could not come up with a cogent argument. And certainly Luke Fortner as your backup center is not a cogent argument. I said this earlier this week, and I will reiterate this. Gayle Benson was a great owner when she could get out of the way because Sean Payton and Drew Brees were running the ship. And she didn't get in there and meddle like Jerry Jones has to, or like Dan Snyder has to, or like the guy in Carolina has to. She got out of the way. Well, now everything's off the tracks. And she has to get in the way, and she's telling you she will not. It is very, very, very sad for fans of the Saints and the Pelicans that she doesn't have the understanding or the willingness. Either one are both sins to know that this is a disaster. And to try to answer those questions with the talking points she was handed by someone in the Saints front office who reports to her, it was a travesty of an interview. I highly suggest you go read it. But I honestly, I laughed when I was reading the interview. I laughed because it's just unfathomable that she could put that on the record. Hopefully, you fall into some luck and come out of this thing. But my goodness, was that interview brutal to sit there and read through. Kudos to Jeff Duncan for getting it done. Hopefully there are brighter days ahead for the Saints, but I'm not seeing them with Mickey Loomis in charge. All right, that's it for hour number 1 here on this Football Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Missed any of it, catch it on demand, including that. Hunt on Saints is where you can find it. We'll talk some LSU and Arkansas as well as SEC picks against the spread when we come back after SportsCenter.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is that website. Look, they're experts over at the Highland Insurance Group. I lived the insurance game for 7 years. I know what makes a good agent, and it's someone who has their client's best interest at all times as opposed to, well, how much can I sell? Because if you get into how much can I sell, you can start cutting corners to try to cut price and try to get clients. That's never going to happen to you, the Highland Insurance Group. They're going to make sure, one, that you're paying the fair premium, that pricing is important, but that you are absolutely covered because your business is spending good money to be covered. So you can't cut some corners at renewal time. Then that car accident happened. That cyber attack goes in because some employee clicks the wrong button. That lawsuit shows up. The hurricane blows through. And all of a sudden you look up and you don't have what you need. That's not going to happen to you at the Highland Insurance Group. Contact Jonathan Carbo and his team. They're here in Baton Rouge. You can find them at HighlandIG.com. It's the Highland Insurance Group online at HighlandIG.com.